Hi, I'm Chris O'Falt of IndieWire, and we are at Sundance 2025. We're at the IndieWire Studio, presented by Dropbox. We're about to talk with the filmmakers and cast of a great new film that premiered yesterday, Ricky. Rashad, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
This film is a really powerful film about recidivism.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the inspirations to do this project.
Sure, yeah. This project started as a short film.
That played here.
Yes, that played here 2 years ago, 2023, and just truly honored for it to come back. But prior to that, a lot of my friends and family members that went through the criminal justice system, I would just remember seeing them struggle, trying to reacclimate and trying to get jobs and being turned away from specific jobs that they wanted, and unfortunately them falling back into recidivism. And that was kind of like the main inspiration for the story. And starting it as a short film when I was at NYU grad film as a thesis film, and it just kind of snowballed into this feature film that I'm truly honored to have done with my man Stephan, and doing great things.
Really grew out of NYU. You were in Casey Lemon's class, right?
Yes, Casey Lemon's.
Casey Lemon's,
yep,
and also your collaborator, your writer was also.
Yes, Lin Q.A. Young. Yep, that's where we first met. So right when I got accepted into film school, they allowed us to shadow a class just just to see how it is. And I was like, Casey Lemon's. And
he was a great filmmaker.
Yeah,
IndieWire,
amazing.
IndieWire,
Casey gave amazing lessons, and she's also one of my advisors in the Sundance labs as well. So we just, the universe brought it all together. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when me and Lin Q met, it was just instantly just, big sister,
Stephan, I want to talk about what drew you to this project, but one thing that's really fascinating to me is this is a very complex character, obviously experienced a lot, but what's so interesting is incarcerated at 15, right?
Yeah.
And then served 15 years.
Yeah.
So now you're playing a man in his in his early 30s, right?
Yeah.
And obviously who's experienced so much, but is also re-entering a world as a man that he exited as 15, and that's a really fascinating. You had to almost carry that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a big part of the draw for me, was just understanding the levels of nuance that this young man's journey, was presenting. And so I think that so often we see these stories and we see the face, we see the headlines, but we never really hear the story. And so, when I saw Rashad short, it just came across as, a story that he felt called to really put out into the world, and the way that it was dealt with, the attention to care, the love, it just, to me, I knew that I was going to be making the right decision and going down this pathway with him. But I think, a very unique story in a way where, this man is having to adjust to civilian life at the same time that he's actually becoming a man. And so, I think that just as a character study, understanding the, sort of internal aspect of what a young man like that might be dealing with, whether it be, PTSD, trauma, all the things that come with going through what this young man went through. And so, for me, it just felt like, something important and something that I felt like I had to do.
It manifests itself in an amazing physical performance. Your character doesn't necessarily, isn't the most verbose character.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, and I'm wondering if you talk about your process a little bit, because just watching you, it feels like you carry this idea of a PTSD, of someone, I imagine what it's like to walk around prison for 15 years.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, this kind of navigating society, not only just coming back, but also through a completely,
Absolutely.
You're no longer a teenager.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a credit to the conversations that we had really early on, myself, Rashad, Lin Q, really digging into the psychology of this young man. I think that we were so fascinated, not only by what was on the page, but everything that wasn't on the page, how much we could say without saying anything at all. And so I feel like we really wanted to tap into that. And Ricky, he's an internal character. So, it's a credit to Rashad for being able to paint a picture, with such a quiet, reserved sort of individual. You feel like you understand him, even if he's not saying anything. So I think, definitely a partnership and a concerted effort to make sure we were pulling that off.
I don't mean to be salacious here, but there's a scene that just it's a simple scene, but it moved me quite a bit. Him losing his virginity at age 32, do you know, in the sense of like, one almost feels, and Stephan's a great performance, you feel that 15-year-old in you.
Yeah,
I want to,
right.
again, it's not a very graphic sex, you know, but it's a remarkable little scene that I think is an important little taste there, right?
Yeah, you know, with that scene, you know, I wanted to portray like, okay, this is, you know, a man and a child in a man's body. And, you know, it was, you know, we how many times did we work on that before we actually got into it? But it was we took some time. We really took our time with that.
Mm-hmm.
We got everybody offset and we really took our time with that. And also with the camera, I didn't want it to be like we needed to see anything. It was just like, you know, I told my cinematographer, Sam Motomedi, to just keep the camera right here.
It's tight, yeah.
Keep it right here. Have the audience be right there to see how, you know, Ricky feels. And I think they executed it very well.
Sheryl Lee Ralph, who's not able to be with us,
Mrs.
fires messed, I guess, with the Abbott Elementary shooting schedule. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that she's a great actress.
Yes.
But what I took away from this is she was born to play a parole officer.
Yes.
Like, I wonder if you could talk about that.
Yes. So, like, you know, when Mrs. Ralph, you know, I'm gonna tell you, like, the scene where she comes, when the family's praying over Ricky, and then she shows up to visit him, and that first reveal through, you know, people are leaving, and we see her watching Ricky. That was her opening intro right there, and it was just like she just brought something. You know, she had great ideas that we talked, just like how me and Stephan talked, and it just came naturally to like what you were saying. And then we also had a lot of consultants on set, so we had a parole officer on set that we consulted with between takes to see if it was, you know, authentic, and pretty much, you know, that was kind of like how we executed it, and it came out really, really good.
What were those scenes like for you playing officer?
Oh man, nervous.
That Stephan's nervous, which plays right into the fact that Ricky's a little nervous.
Precisely. There was no acting required in those in those scenes, but yeah, I mean, Miss Ralph, a legend. I think that the spirit, the energy that she brought to the set, everyone felt right away. It was tangible. It was very, very real. You know, you felt like you were in the presence of a legend. Yes. And not only that, you know, I think that her presence really elevated everyone else and their work ethic and what they were trying to do. And I've never seen, you know, folks more focused and, you know, ready to do things than when Miss Ralph was on set. And so
you all feel like first graders in our Abbott Elementary class.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, there's one scene in particular I remember when Ricky's late to his meeting with her. Sure. And, you know, she tells him, hey, I'm not messing around with you. I'm not your friend. You better go, you know, get this paper signed and go find yourself a job. And I remember when she finished that take, you know, Rashad called cut. And, like, all I heard was from outside of the room, everyone just going crazy, like, woo! Yeah. So, you know, it's one of those things that you can't teach that. You know, you can't teach that energy, that way of galvanizing a room. And so, yeah, I was just honored to be able to share those moments with her.
Talked a little bit about research before, and in this movie, Ricky has a support group, people readjusting to life. And I hope this isn't a spoiler, but at the end, in the end credits, we get to see that many of the actors you're playing with in group are people that are actually sharing their real life experiences, readjusting from years of incarceration. And I'm wondering, not only that group and those scenes, but in general, the research that went into this. And also, again, I imagine so much of this is that backstory that you have to fill in, right?
Yeah. So, it's interesting you said that because I was thinking about that earlier. We researched for probably like a year while we were writing. So we actually sat in proceedings. We actually, like, friends and family members that went through the criminal justice system, we had long conversations with them. We spoke with attorneys, we spoke with parole officers, correctional officers. We spoke with children of incarcerated parents. We spoke with everyone. And, you know, we just wanted it to feel as authentic as possible. And when we researched more, we thought we had everything, we wanted to do even more. So we researched even more, and it really, really helped. And we had consultants on set. One of my co-producers, he's a retired cop. So we're consulting him a lot of stories, and yeah.
I think one thing that comes from that authenticity is obviously what you want to get across is the struggle against recidivism. And instead of having to come up with huge plot points, the conflict and the struggle could be every day. And I imagine that has to have come from the research, right? And being able, and that's a tough thing to, it's one thing to feel that way, it's another thing to translate that into a story and into character, right?
No question. I mean, you know, Miss Ralph has a line in the film where she says, you know, he's been out for 21 days and he'll be lucky to make it to 30. And, you know, that really hit home for me, because you're right. Every day is like a victory in itself. Every day that you could just survive another day, you know, be able to have the opportunity to get work, to normalize your life. I think that, you know, people don't realize the daily obstacles that, you know, folks in that position really have to go through, you know, balancing their past life with their new life, you know, their friends and their family, what their friends and their family go through with them. You know, when somebody's incarcerated, they're not, you know, locked up by themselves. You know, their families are locked up too, their friends, their loved ones, you know, at least from a mental perspective. And so, yeah, I think all of those things sort of helped add color to Ricky and the everyday burdens that were on him and what I tried to portray with the performance.
I feel like one other thing that really helps flesh that out, you're from Hartford, Connecticut.
Yes.
And grounding it there, but also grounding it in the Caribbean community that you come from,
totally.
And then turning to a cast that's also has that background. It feels like, even though that's not something that you put up front,
Right.
you feel that kind of specificity and authenticity.
Yeah, you know,
right?
like you know, it was amazing how it turned out, because, you know, cast and crew, there was a lot of Caribbeans in there, and it just felt like one big family, you know. And, you know, I think it was really important for me, just from my upbringing, from Stephan's upbringing, to include that aspect of, you know, what I never really saw on screen. I've seen it sometimes, but not as often as I would like to. So that was the basis of that. And, you know, it just really came together really good.
Wow. They were all, it felt like half of Hartford was in the audience. And you had a beautiful screening, and congratulations. That was a great screening yesterday. And
Appreciate
good luck with
it.
the film.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Appreciate you guys.